Hey guys, this is Neo with another video about patch 1.3.29. This is my opinion on the patch, my analysis, my foresight, as I am, of course, the prophet, as you all know. In this video, I assume that you have read the patch notes, that you have seen the videos, so you know what's up. I don't want to explain everything again, because you've probably seen the video of Grubby, Todd, Remo, Starshaped, so everybody read everything, you know what's up, right? So I want to keep this intro short and dive in. What I want to do in this video is to first give my opinion on every single change we have and then take a look at the matchups and how they will be influenced by this. First of all, I want to say that the changes here are going into the right direction and they want to address the correct problems. But if they succeed with that, that remains to be seen. So bear with me. And let's dive into the patch notes. As I said, you've seen this before. In general, about these patches and about these changes, I think they are too drastic. As you can see here on the right-hand side, most of that addresses 25% and above in one change. I think that's too much. I think that's drastically too much. We've seen this before, that balance was changed in like these ranges, and if they want to give an incentive to try these changes and make them a little extreme to see in what direction this is going and then tune it down, okay. I don't like that philosophy too much. I would rather see small steps, baby steps. I said this plenty of times already in the cast. I feel a lot of these changes are way too drastic. And yeah, we'll see that. Arcane Tower, 25%. This is a prime example of they identify an issue, they want to fix it, but like we are on the same road, Blizzard and us. We're on the same road. We want to address an issue. We want to fix a matchup, and then Blizzard takes a turn and it's not addressing the right things. Prime example, because as a couple of people have said already, Hawk said this, Todd said this, I think this doesn't help too much against the skeleton harass. We will go into that in the human versus undead matchup, so not too great and a bit too drastic in my opinion as well. As the Arcane Towers are a good tower, are a very good tower in my opinion. So, do they need a 25% damage buff? I don't think so. Mirror Image, that's a good change. Reducing mana is oftentimes okay. It's 80 mana, it's not spammable, it does help. It's a really cool play. We should definitely feature this. Mirror Image, Lightning Shield on top, you get entangled, Mirror Image out, because yeah, you kind of negate what the opponent did before, but you also have to pay for it. Should it be 100? No. 80 is fine. Maybe this can even be reduced, but then it might be too powerful. This is also only addressing one matchup, so not that big of a deal. 80 mana is cool. Stomp. Way too drastic once again. 25%. Stomp level 1 was never good. You rarely use it. You use it if you see an opportunity. Sometimes you even skip it and go aura first, which I never think is good. But there can be these key moments where someone is harassing you, you get that stun that forces the opponent to go away. But this, it always felt like you need the TEC on 3 to get the 3-second stomp. So the value of a level now 1 stomp will be the effect of a then level 2 stomp. This means Orc has to play with the level now 1 stomp until the very late game, and I don't think that's what it's supposed to be. Like, it's a change of 1/3. Too drastic. Tune it down. Stomp is really important for Orcs. We need it. They need it. Under Tower Repair, I think is fair to give it that. Undead towers are really strong, but it takes 40% longer now, roundabout, to repair a tower now. This is not good. against lame styles, I think. And this incentivizes tanks and raiders, in my opinion. So here again, maybe put the repair rate on 50? Like, I think burrows are 50. That could be fine. 60, little too extreme. Tune it down. Destroyer faster dispel. There is the argument that the Destroyer dispel is kind of unique because it's so late, but it's so clunky and doesn't feel good. So I think that's going into the right direction. Kind of same for the Beetle Burrow that now requires an upgrade. Level 3 Beetles, dude. We've talked about this at length for sure. It's just not a cool design. You summon the Beetles, you go for an harass, you burrow them, and you do it again, and you always force a reaction of your opponent very early on in the game, because with the level 1 Beetles, you can still creep very fast. Level 3 is pretty much guaranteed on the Crypt Lord if things don't go sideways. And this, especially with the Beetles never expiring, the burrow has so much value. And it never stops until you react. And this combination wasn't good. It wasn't nicely designed. It was too strong, was really annoying, was not flashy, was not cool to watch. It was just bad. So that Beetles require an update postpones the ability of Beetles to burrow. And then it should be fine. I think it's still a cool ability. A summon can have an ability. I like it. But it should cost you something. It shouldn't come for free. So I definitely like that change. Unholy Aura. Oh boy. 25% nerf on level 2 is again too strong. And what's the scaling now? 10, 15, 30? Like what? Doubles from level 2 to level 3? Someone didn't think this through. And I think once again, this enables other races to play around Undead in a way that no one benefits from, except people who really like to play lamey. I think this should scale better. I'm not exactly sure how I would crunch the numbers, but let's say 8, 17, 25%. Just an example. I'm not a master in this, but this is also illogical. Like 10%, 15%, 30%, not good. Wisp, the most extreme one. I heard this was added kind of late to the patch. So I wonder who's responsible for that. And maybe it was a last second thing that they didn't think through. Because yes, detonates are an issue. Yes, wisps in that regard, wisps are very strong and unique. We should keep that. Unique game design's cool, and that's what we want. Otherwise, we can play Command and Conquer 1 or something. Not really sure what game it was. From 50 to 25 is too big, and it ruins matchups, and it affects every matchup. And that's the crucial thing. It's drastic, and it affects everything. So this makes elves really weak. Also, think about the fact that to get the same effect of mana drained from detonate now, you need twice the supply and twice the cost. So it's not just a 50% nerf, it's even more. And either you use the same amount of wisps and spend your resources there, but then how is the army looking? If you have 8 supply more blocked with wisps, not good. Absolutely not good. Try 40. Maybe. That could be nice. Bear damage, I like it. I always thought that this is supposed to be a support / damage dealer role, as they are not supposed to be tanks, and they shouldn't fulfill this role because therefore we have mountain giants. It's cool that they are a little squishy. They should have an impact though, and it's hard for bears. Giving them a little buff, just like the little nerf on the rifleman, just fine tune. I like it. I think they can still be worked on. They are not in a perfect spot yet, but we're getting there. I think giving them a little more damage is fine. Chimera, not too sure about that. I've heard from the 4-on-4 and FFA community that this is horrendous. Does it affect one-on-one so much? As I'm clearly talking from a one-on-one perspective here. Does it affect you, this friendly fire? I don't think too much. It's nice, and it leads you to play them more often, maybe. And we've seen them recently to finish games against human, to finish games against undead. It's always cool. It's like, I don't know, a battle cruiser in StarCraft or something. It's nice. I like it. The 4/4 items that they changed it to 5/5, that is a drastic buff. But it's also necessary because they are vastly underpowered compared to the auras. So I think they're still not in a good spot. As it is random, and it affects only one unit, except of a whole army, or compared to a whole army. This needs to be worked on, but it's better. And if something that is at the very bottom of something, in comparison to something that's at the very top of something, gets closer, this automatically means that it's getting better. Right? Kind of the same for claws. Claws are a really good item in the early game for harass, in the late game for damage dealers. We all know that. And their impact is really good. We've seen players buy them at the marketplace for relatively cheap. And that results in the super liches, in the 300 crits that you know. So nerfing claws a little equals up this drop table of rings, circlets, and gloves. Same as for the 4/4 items, I think. Still not perfect. This entire drop table still not perfect, but better. Makes sense to me. Cool change. So let's dive into some of the matchups and let's talk about some of the problems we have, problems that are addressed, problems that will be created with that patch, and also something that is not addressed, and then maybe a conclusion in the end. So Human Mirror is not the biggest change, but it's also no incentive to go away from Breaker Wars, right? This is what we all want. We all want Human Mirror to go tier 3 and go knights and inner fire and mortars and everything explodes, and it's really, really, really cool. But breakers are really good, and breakers counter a lot, and breakers have good timings, and that's an issue. So yeah, not much to say here. It's just Breaker Wars are really boring and breakers are still not addressed. That leads us directly to Human vs. Orc. As this is maybe not good. Because the Arcane Towers, some human play them, some human don't play them, some build them later, some build them early. But Orc relies on Farseer harass with wolves in the early game. That's all they do to get that little bit of an advantage on the TC compared to the Mountain King. That's the game plan early on. So if you give the Arcane Towers a 25% buff against the wolves, that's a lot. And I think this matchup is kind of fair with two exceptions. And that is late game human. So with that, humans arrive in the late game earlier, and they are stronger earlier. At the same time, you probably won't see Stomp gets nerfed. So there is a pretty big buff for human that helps them a ton in the early. And then there's a nerf on the TC that is the focal point of the army. Like everything revolves around this TC. A key unit. And they nerf it heavily. So this is a big power swing in this matchup. And I don't think that's right. The matchup was kind of fine with two problems. And the problems were breakers and clap. Yes, of course, Stomp is very, very good. It should be nerfed a little, but you know, in comparison, it's not that great. Stomp now pales against clap. Clap is absolute sick. It has no damage cap. With the changes to mana potions, it is always available. And Stomp is really hard to do in the very, very late game because breakers block your TC and feedback him. So in the first row, you have no targets for the clap. You need to use invisibility or walk all the way around the army. So using Stomp is a lot harder than using clap. Clap is unchanged. Breakers are unchanged. I think this tips the scales in favor of human. even though the stun is only against heroes, units are still affected in the way they were before. But I think this there is issues in this matchup, and they kind of want to deal with it. But address clap. Either you don't do these changes, or you address clap and breakers, which you have to do later on anyway, because they cause problem in other matchups as well. So clap and breakers, this will be a little repetitive. And yeah, if you want the orc to go back to Blade Master, which is kind of a crazy idea, but claws are weaker, so that's kind of an additional nerf if you want to go that route. So yeah, I don't like this too much, and I think it's dangerous. Human versus undead. Oh boy, do we like to talk about this matchup, don't we? Arcane Tower is not the solution to this problem, I feel. Because the problem is the very early harass with the DK and with skeletons. And sometimes it's 2 skeletons, 4 plus coil, 6, whatever. At that point, when this harass hits, you don't have an Arcane Tower. It might be building. You might be still building the Town Hall, depending on the map. So this crucial first, maybe second harass of the undead is not weakened. By no means, if they play DK Fiends. Yes, it helps afterwards, but oftentimes, it will help against the tier 3 push of the undead, and that's kind of fine. But are skeletons that important at that stage of the game? I think there's other issues at that stage of the game. So this tower nerf does nothing to this matchup, in my opinion. What it does is to help against beetles, obviously. That's cool, but who plays beetles anymore? Very, very few. And with the nerf on the beetles, I don't see this happening anymore at all. So yeah, not addressing the right things here. Another thing is that the changes lead to tank play. Tower repairing is a lot harder for undead now, making them easier to kill, giving them tanks more value. I think when Fortitude read this today, he opened a Warcraft map, built 10 mortar teams, researched Flare, and got himself a little fireworks. Because he can finally play tanks again. This goes hand in hand with the Unholy Aura nerf. When the undead army is moving slower, it takes longer to respond to tanks. Because the army has to move, of course, you have some units split and all. But this should also help them. Yeah. I think less Crypt Lord, more decay, and of course it will be easier for the human army once they're at tier 3, once they're in fighting shape, to reach the undead army better, because they're slower, except in the level 6 and beyond. So the knights can do more damage, and the knights are pretty damn good. Mountain King can reach more. Human has more catch. And I'm still of the opinion, in the very, 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 very late game, speaking hero levels 544, 543, Human is very strong and competitive. Before is where they're weak. So I don't think this will help the matchup too much. It might go into a tank direction, which we all don't want. This also doesn't address anything that helps Human to build a tier 2 army and be competitive on tier 2. Which is kind of what we want, right? We want more diverse playstyles. We want a race to have multiple options in a matchup. And yeah, that's not really addressed here. So I don't know. Papa Roach might be dead, but there's still so many problems. I think this matchup has huge power spikes. Multiple huge power spikes. And only one power spike goes to the Human, and that's in the very, very late game, and the focus is to survive until then, and none of these changes help very much. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. Did I get everything? Yeah. So let's go to human versus night elf. Another problematic matchup we have. Oh well, this is already 20 minutes and I'm only through 3 matchups. But a lot of things will repeat, I think. So, Arcane Tower against night elf helps against treants. I don't think it's the best, like the worst thing, whatever. Wisps here, like the situation that I'm talking about is that night elves were really desperate to defeat human. Talking about Moon Lawlight versus TH Infi, that level, WGL semifinals, 2 sets, both 3-2 in favor of the human. It was the night elves who tried to come up with new strategies because they feel I can't beat human late game, so I have to do something. Play Warden, play Beastmaster, play Tower Rushes. This is all we've seen recently. So the night elves feel they are at a disadvantage, and if you look at the very, very late games, they might be right. So a problem in the late game is that a clap absolutely annihilates bears. So this +1 won't matter. And usually you want to detonate wisps to get rid of priest healing, slow, less in a fire, dispel in a fire. And human has a lot of mana anyways, either through blood mage or archmage. So they have even more now. Even more mana to use. So the night elf late game is not helped at all. Detonate is ruined. Matchup goes more towards human when it was already slightly in their favor. So a couple of unaddressed things here once again. Clap is hilariously strong. Siphon level 2 also doesn't help the warden, like, or any night elf hero basically. The level 2 Siphon always has mana, even against the demon hunter. Shouldn't really be the case, I think. It's a little too strong. Another thing is that Warden Ultimate absolutely wins you games in this matchup. Once we get here, Warden Ultimate, almost unwinnable for human. So once again, some very, very strong power spikes, something not addressed, something goes into the wrong direction. I don't think this matchup will be good, unfortunately. Orc Mirror, pretty quick. We see a lot of Blade Master, Shadow Hunter, Raider, Walker, Kodo. That's been the same for years. We've seen a little bit more tier 3 with Tor and stuff. With the stun duration changed, it's a little less of an incentive to go tier 3. So maybe we see more of the same. That's a little sad. It shouldn't be the case. But yeah, that's about it for Orc Mirror. Orc vs Undead, I'm really unsure. And you can criticize me for this if things are wrong here, for sure. Or just help me out. Stomp against heroes is definitely a big deal. And this doesn't help Orc at all. And as I said, I think the Stomp should be better. Stomp is really damn good against Fiends though, and that stays the same. They can be coiled quicker, frost armored quicker, so maybe that's less of a problem. I think the Undead nerfs are the problem here. Tower repair rate nerfed means that you can tear them down with raiders easier. Is this an incentive to go mass raiders again? Mass lame Zeppelin drops, not something flashy we want. We love the explosive tier 3 Orc Undead style, right? With all the hero spells and these 80 supply armies clashing. That's the best, even though the early mid game sometimes is a little boring. And with the speed change on Unholy Aura, which granted will come into the game later, but the Orc has so much catch, it's ridiculous. They got Ensnare, Hex, Stomp, Endurance Aura, of course, which is not nerfed. So if the auras are at the same speed, the Orc army is even faster. They have speed scrolls. So there's so much catch. And this makes it really hard for Undead to run away. If you think about going Beetles or Crypt Lord first, which was a thing, Vortex likes it, I think, well then you have the Beetle nerf here as well. Again, I don't think this goes into the right direction. I don't think it needed too much of a change. Maybe it was slightly in the Orc's favor, but also not really. it was a lot of back and forth, and I like this matchup. I don't know if this needs these changes, these three. But yeah, we'll see about that. Orc vs Night Elf is gonna be crazy. Buff for Orc with the mirror image. This is cool. We like to see it. But if Night Elves are not able, or like Whisper is kind of useless now with this, or too expensive for their use. So if you can't get rid of a lot of mana, there's so much Lightning Shield, so much Chain Lightning, everything. I think this matchup goes from a very Night Elf favorite matchup to a pretty Orc favorite matchup. Moon plays it with less Wisps and more tier 3. Maybe that's the new way. And maybe that's a little bit more balanced, but this is absolutely crucial. And a 50% nerf to an essential move in a matchup is too drastic, guys. Start slow. We all agree that Night Elf versus Orc is ridiculous, oftentimes, but you just change it from being ridiculous to the left to ridiculous to the right. Yeah, I don't like that. Undead Mirror! I think we will see less variety here, unfortunately. We've seen crazy Undead Mirrors this year. DK versus Crypt Lord, Lich versus DK, Lich versus Crypt Lord, sometimes even Dreadlord versus Crypt Lord. With the Beetles a little weaker, I can see that fading away. Destroyer Dispel is, of course, like a little incentive to go more Destroyers. Is the Unholy Aura nerf an incentive to go more Lich, maybe? And we will see a different variety? I mean, in the end, it's still a fair matchup, right? I just want to see more colors in this matchup. Speaking of which, unaddressed issue, Anti-Magic Shield is still green for both parties. Please color the Anti-Magic Shield. I'm begging you for 3 years now. Please color the Anti-Magic Shield. It's ridiculous. Apart from that, I think Undead Mirror was never the worst matchup. Oh, well, Destroyer Mirror were pretty bad, but there's no problem in this matchup. It wasn't a cool state, actually. I hope you didn't ruin it. Undead versus Night Elf. This will help. The tower repair thing will help Night Elves for sure. Goes into their direction. They've been complaining about narrow towers for a long time, rightfully so. With the bears doing a little bit more damage, this should lead into Night Elves being able to deal with towers better. Cool thing. Wisps will hurt them late game, but I think it's in this matchup it's not the biggest factor. I think the problem here is that it's a big incentive to go mass air for Night Elves. Because it was the key to be fast, to kite, to web, run away, shoot, web, run away, shoot, web, run away, shoot. All the time. And you need to be quick, and you need to have crazy micro for that. Now with the Unholy Aura at 15, I think we will see more mass air. I can definitely see that. Chimera's no friendly fire. I don't think it's that much of an issue. Takes away from the uniqueness, but come on, what do you really friendly fire if you attack an abomination? Right? There's not much, I think. So I think this helps Night Elf, but I don't think this will be flashy games in the future, or more flashier games, more entertaining games in the future, unfortunately. Because, like, to be honest, mass Fairy Dragon tickling is not that cool. Night Elf Mirror here. Maybe we see more Bear Mirror. We've seen a lot of Huntress Mirrors recently. Maybe this +1 will give us more Bear Mirrors, but what do we know? It's also not the flashiest matchup of all time. Alright, that's it. That's 1.29. 1.32.9. So that's right. Yeah, that's my thoughts. I hope I didn't forget everything. I am a little worried that we will see more lame. I'm little sad that we didn't see Clap and Breakers addressed. And I think everything is too drastic, and maybe it's also too much at the same time again. But that is up for discussion. Maybe that could be fine. What I want to praise is that they wait for DreamHack to finish, they wait for the World Cyber Games to finish, and then they apply this patch. They don't ruin a tournament by patching in the middle of it, which is amazing. So, in conclusion, tune everything down, make less drastic changes, then we'll be fine. Addressing Breakers is really hard. I know you need them against Undead, but they make a boring human mirror, and they make an unfair human versus orc in the very late game. So something needs to be done about Breakers. And yeah, hopefully not more tanks. Hopefully not more base race. Hopefully this doesn't lead to more unfair matchups. So yeah. I don't know. Orc versus Undead could become an imbalanced matchup. Not too sure about that. In general, I feel like it takes a little away from the variety and adds risk to matchups. That's kind of my conclusion. Things were missed out. We addressed everything. I hope you enjoyed this. If you are of my opinion, let me know. If I got something horribly wrong, let me know. By the way, I didn't know what Remo said, so hopefully we didn't said too much of the same. We wanted to do this independently to get raw reviews of the patch. Cool to see the patch. Cool to see the scene being dynamic. And hopefully Blizzard is as dynamic and listens to the community's voice. Thank you very much. Be loud if you have a problem with the patches. Hit the forums, hit the Reddits, hit the socials, and let us know. Love you guys. See you next time.